I don't know. I'm definitely of the opinion, whether it's PG-13 or R, really does not matter. There's like this weird stigma going on.
Oh yeah, you think rated R movies are overrated.
Well, I mean, there's like a bigger discussion along with that.
There is.
But it's sort of like, it's more so just like, I feel like there's this weird idea floating around, like if a movie is not rated R. Like, for example, like horror movies specifically, like if it doesn't have an R rating in front of it, it's just immediately people write it off like it's gonna.
I just think people, they kind of picture certain properties to already exist in a rated R setting. For example, Deadpool, Venom. People were very upset when Venom wasn't rated R, which it should have been.
Well, that's different, because it's like, you know, okay, like of course, there's a lot of great things that came from it. We got Logan. We got the rated R Joker movie. We got Deadpool. Those are all things that probably you would all agree that the subject matter, you have to have an R rating to tell the story properly. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, but like when a horror movie comes out, let's say it's an original horror movie and it's PG-13, right away, like there's a bunch of people who write it off completely. And it's like the idea that you can't make a good PG-13 horror movie is kind of like a weird, again, it's like fitting it into a box because of whatever rating it has.
I think it's just because it has a history, a past. I think if it hadn't had that history of shitty PG-13 horror movies...
There have been good PG-13 horror movies,
I just think more often than not, mass majority of PG-13 horror movies have just been, like, catering towards, like, 14-year-old boys and girls going on their first date.
I mean, there's a history of, like... there's kind of a stigma around PG-13 movies because it's like sometimes you feel they're made only to make more money.
I mean, we work at a movie theater, and every single time there's been a PG-13 horror movie, it's just all these like late middle school, early high school kids, like with their like boyfriend or girlfriend, and they don't give a shit about the movie.
You know my philosophy. I feel like I've said this before, but I mean, this is coming from somebody who likes movies that are realistic as possible. Maybe that's a flaw within my own like taste.
I know what you're gonna say already.
Yeah, it's just like I just think that life is rated R, so I think that if your movie is not rated R, then it's almost fake.
Yeah,
it almost feels like fraudulent.
I think that's definitely where me and you are gonna disagree.
And I mean, this is not. I'm not saying PG-13 and PG movies fucking suck because they're fucking like not real and stuff. But it's just like it definitely. When I go watch a horror movie and I know it's PG-13, I'm like A Quiet Place. That's the first thing that came to mind. It's like, okay, well, this movie obviously isn't gonna like be as realistic as I want it to be.
I don't think A Quiet Place is a great example because it's again horror movie, but that's it's released by like
just the
Paramount.
First thing that came
it's
to
more
mind.
of a like thriller blockbuster.
So what? Does it matter like who makes it? I mean, like if somebody,
I think it is possible to make a good.
If a person's getting killed by an alien in a movie, like and
they keep cutting away.
PG-13,
well, that's another thing too. Then we have to differentiate sort of like movies that are shot and edited and from beginning to finish it was always made to be like sort of a PG-13, or movies that were originally shot to be R and then cut down to PG-13. I think we're talking about two different things here because I agree.
I feel like you're still restricting yourself if you're shooting for PG-13 because.
Well, it's almost, again, I agree with that. It's almost like if you're shooting to aim for a specific audience, it goes the other way, too.
Yeah.
We've seen movies where, like, it probably could have been PG-13, but you can tell that, like...
We're going for that R
They
rating.
added a couple extra F-bombs and just a few boobs here and there just to get it to be rated R, and it feels forced.
This is a really weird...
It's the same thing.
Like, example, but, like, The Maze Runner was PG-13, and they're allowed... PG-13 movies are allowed one F-bomb, and there's going to be a line where I don't remember his fucking name. Like, the main bad dude was like, you don't fuck with the maze. And they're like, this doesn't work for this movie. We're just going to take it out completely. And so I was like, oh, good on you guys for not just, like, using the F-bomb just because you can, you know?
Right. There's definitely, like, also, like, a weird thing with, like... Again, I think you saw that I shared that video, and there's, like... This video goes into that, but, like, how, like, there's a lot of movies around Oscar season, which probably could have been PG-13... Like, the subject matter's not necessarily that mature, and you could have gotten away with it and it would have been fine. But just because, like, rated R movies tend to be the ones that are nominated for Oscars, like they feel like they're almost obligated to like add just a couple little things in there that might not even like add to the story in any way.
Here's
almost,
a boob.
Yeah, it makes it worse just because it's put on that. Rated R movies are put on this weird pedestal. So again, it's the same thing either
I don't
way.
even know if they are put on a pedestal, but I mean maybe in the Oscars.
Yeah, for the Oscars.
I think for the Oscars they are.
I mean, I'd be curious to see how many PG-13 movies get nominated for stuff like Best Picture.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway,
That's
I don't know.
the thing. It's a lot of historical movies in front.
I think just in general, making a movie specifically to fit into a rating is kind of gross.
But
in general,
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, yeah, when you make like a scary movie or like a brutal movie, like an action movie like Batman or something,
right.
Sometimes it can feel like the PG-13 movie or the PG-13 rating is putting you in a box, kind of. But I mean, like, I believe you should just write your script and just whatever happens, and don't force it in either direction. Just kind of let it be what it is.
Right.
Because, like, you might write a script and it just is, like, your vision is that, yeah, it cuts away, it doesn't show this death because it just works better for the story, and it's actually scarier this way if you don't see it.
Exactly.
Like Double Indemnity.
I think that was a totally different. That was more of a product of the times.
Okay.
I mean, like, Project Power is kind of like the movie we're talking about today. It's a rated R movie, but then they still were cutting away from a lot of the F-bombs.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's, like, weird, you know? So it's like, what's your vision? Figure that out first.
Then
whatever the rating is, the rating should come later.
Yeah.
You know? But, I mean, in my philosophy is, like, if you're being as authentic as possible with certain genres, I think that, like...
I think it's
usually like the rated R rating would come in naturally.
I think it's the subject matter, especially.
I think a lot of Academy Award movies are like historical. That's what they tend to gravitate to. And for a historical movie to be accurate,
right.
I mean, it's usually about shitty times.
But you know the way Hollywood works, like a bunch of guys in a room and they're like, oh, well, we just noticed looking at all this data that all these movies getting nominated for Oscars are rated R, so that must mean that we got to make our movie. And it might have nothing to do with that.
Try making 12 Years a Slave and giving it a PG-13.
No, I mean, I agree with you, but, like, again, you know how Hollywood works, and that's like... That again,
but they also make less money. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah, that's why they did PG-13.
So it's
Venom.
like you could say, I agree. Like maybe our movies are get more awards attention,
right?
But PG-13 makes way more money. So like, there's an agenda for both sides.
Absolutely.
Of it. Yeah, so and then you can talk about the PG rating, which is just like,
I just think it's weird when it's like again, if a movie like The Batman does get announced to be PG-13, I'm gonna be a little disheartened if a bunch of people go, "Oh, well, I'm not even gonna see it."
Well, yeah,
I don't think anybody
that's
will.
Stupid.
I would be disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I would be very.
I don't think anybody will be like pissed off like they were with Venom.
Yeah.
You know, like it's.
I don't need Batman to be cussing up a fucking storm or anything, you know. And like, I mean, obviously we've seen the Dark Knight.
Could you imagine? I'm fucking Batman.
The Dark Knight movies are some of the most like dark, fucking grim superhero movies out there, and they're PG-13.
Right,
They're the same rating as like Thor Ragnarok, you know, which is crazy how much leeway you have. But I mean, there is that extra step you could go into actually making it extremely violent, and I think that like a movie like The Batman would benefit from that.
Right.
Like the Joker. And I'll be honest, like this might just be me as a person. It helps me take the movie seriously a little bit more. Like, I mean, as somebody who's not super into comic books and super into like fantastical stuff, like if it's rated R and it's violent and I'm like getting into like the fucking craziness of it, then I'm almost able to buy the world more and believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And like the stakes feel heavier, which is like what I could say about horror movies, how they, you know, how if it's rated R, then I'm like, okay, shit could go down, you know, this is like anything could happen type thing. That's what the rated R rating is to me. Anything could happen.
But I'm still of the belief you can make a scary horror movie that's PG-13. I've seen them. I mean, they don't happen often.
I agree, but I'm trying to like think of like the best PG-13 horror movie.
I know there's a movie I haven't seen in a while,
Ouija.
but no, God no. There's a movie called The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe.
No, I haven't.
I've heard that. Yeah, I haven't heard good things.
I saw it. I actually thought it was pretty unnerving. It's a lot of tension building. There's not really a whole
can't
lot
think
of jump
anything.
scares.
I honestly can't think of
Okay, after I look
Aren't
up
the
some...
Insidious movies like PG-13?
Signs is PG-13.
I don't really know if I consider that a horror movie. It's more a thriller, sci-fi.
I agree though. It doesn't need to be rated
I guess
R.
Scary stories to tell in the dark. Insidious is PG-13 Mama, Lights Out, Drag Me to Hell.
See, I mean, they're not the best.
Happy Death Days is
Happy Death Day is good, but Happy Death Day is really cheeky.
Yeah.
And that actually gets pretty violent,
Ooh,
too.
The Turning, 47 meters down.
Split.
I don't consider.
Cloverfield's
That's a thriller.
PG-13?
Split is a thriller. That's not a horror.
Cloverfield is not PG-13.
It is PG-13.
It is.
Click on it.
I know what you mean, though. There is a scene that's really
PG-13.
bloody that they got. I was shocked they got away with.
There's some F-bombs in that movie, too, I'm pretty sure. That's that surprising.
Yeah.
So, like, that...
Oh, look. The Woman in Black.
There it is. And it has, I guess it has a 67%.
I'm super
on Rotten
surprised about
Tomatoes.
Cloverfield.
They do exist. They don't happen often because the horror genre in general is just like a...
World War Z should have not been PG-13.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother...
That I agree with
a
you.
whole nother-
Again, I think it's a case-by-case
It is.
basis.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I'm trying to say ratings do not automatically equate to quality.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm trying to say.
And I think my argument would be ratings shouldn't
Determine your movie.
you shouldn't rate your movie based on whatever's going to give you the most money.